What's the cruelest thing you overheard your stepmom say about you? Marlene married my dad when I was 16. From day one, she specialized in comments just quiet enough that dad never heard. Comments about my weight, my skin, how I'd never keep a boyfriend, death by 1,000 tiny cuts. When my cousin Emily went wedding dress shopping, she invited me along for support. Marlene inserted herself into the trip. She loved anything wedding related, collected bridal magazines like trading cards. The consultant suggested I try on a dress too while Emily was changing, just for fun. I resisted, but Emily insisted, so I grabbed a simple off-shoulder gown. When I walked out, Marlene actually teared up, hand over her mouth, eyes glistening. For one stupid moment, I thought maybe she finally saw me as family. 20 minutes later, while I was back in the changing room, I heard her in the hallway with her friend Sharon. Did you see her actually checking herself out? Like she thinks she could be a bride. That's what happens when fathers don't remarry. Daughters get delusional about their prospects. Sharon laughed uncomfortably. Marlene continued. She'll be single forever. Men want wives who look like wives, not whatever that was. Mark my words, she'll die alone with cats. At least I won't have to pretend to be happy at a wedding that'll never happen. I stood frozen in my underwear, dress in my hands. Then I heard Emily's voice, sharp as glass. Wow, Marlene, that's quite an opinion about your stepdaughter. Silence. Emily had been in the next changing room. She'd heard everything. Marlene sputtered about being misunderstood. Emily walked out, looked her dead in the eye, and said loudly enough for the whole boutique to hear that she couldn't believe a grown woman would be so threatened by a 22-year-old that she'd wish her lonely. The consultant and 3 other customers were staring. Marlene went red, then white, then grabbed her purse and left. Emily knocked on my door. I let her in and broke down completely. She held me while I sobbed, then said something I'll never forget. Marlene was projecting because she knew what everyone else could see, that I was going to have a life she never would. After all, I wasn't bitter and cruel. I went home and told my dad everything. He didn't believe me until Emily sent him a voice recording she'd made on her phone. You could hear every word clearly. They separated 3 months later, not just because of that incident, but because once dad started paying attention, he noticed the pattern, the little cruelties, the way she smiled when she hurt me. 5 years later, I married my husband, Tom, in the same boutique where Marlene said I'd never be a bride. We invited dad. Marlene wasn't mentioned. Emily gave a speech at the reception. She told the story of the dress shop, the recording, and how she knew from that day I'd prove Marlene wrong. The room gave her a standing ovation. Dad cried through the father-daughter dance, apologizing for not protecting me better. I told him the truth. Marlene's cruelty taught me to recognize kindness. Without her showing me what love wasn't, I might not have recognized what it was when Tom came along. Last year, I ran into Marlene at a grocery store. She was buying wine and frozen dinners for one. She saw my wedding ring, my pregnant belly, and her face did something complicated. She said my name like a question. I just smiled and said nothing. Sometimes the best response to someone who said you'd die alone is to live well in front of them. She stood there watching me leave with my full cart, heading home to my husband, our soon-to-be baby, and the life she swore I'd never have. Emily was right. The projection was real. Marlene's now 54, 3 divorces deep, living in a studio apartment with, wait for it, 2 cats. Meanwhile, I'm in my house with Tom, our daughter, and a dog named Charlie who's terrible at fetch but excellent at love. Turns out girls like that do get married. We just marry men who aren't threatened by women who survived stepmothers like Marlene.